For math stations, I have 4 groups based on abilities, and it lasts for about 15 to 20 minutes per group, and that includes transition time. For Math with Teacher, I work with students on material that we learned that day, so it's just an extension of my lesson. I give each group a different level of scaffolding. I observe them working on a skill. I listen to their understanding. I correct any misunderstandings they have, and then I take notes on how I can help. I may pull certain math manipulatives to help them if they're struggling, or I might modify the skill they're working on so that they can better understand it. For students that have an accurate understanding of the standard, I try to make it more rigorous, and that I may ask them to apply it in a different way. For example, if a student has shown me that they understand how to solve addition and subtraction equations using 2 3-digit numbers, I may ask them to use it in a word problem. For Math by Myself, this is just spiral review practice, usually an activity sheet or a task to complete. This is always something that they've already learned. I'm not going to put anything new in front of them to complete independently because I haven't had a chance to see if they accurately understand and use the skill. I differentiate by modifying the assignment for each ability group or giving them something that I know they need special practice on. And they're held accountable for this. They have to turn it into a basket, and then I just go through them briefly to make sure that everyone's turned it in, because some students don't like to turn it in. And then I go over it during my planning time, and I check to see if any students are having trouble with any certain skills, and then I can address that later in IE time. Then Math with Technology, students, they complete a lesson based on their ability on sites like Reflex Math, MobyMax, Splash Math, or Prodigy. Then we have Math with Partner. So Math with Partner can have a lot of behavior problems. I found that assigning partners within my ability groups helped enormously because it doesn't work. Not every single child is going to be able to work well with others. So there's a special few. They just don't work well with others, and they're given an independent center game to complete at their desk or another assigned spot. And I also find that if students are bored with the activity, or they just don't know how to use it correctly, then that's when negative behaviors arise. There are times when I've had to temporarily shut down the Math with Partner station and just give it an alternative assignment until I could figure out how to handle or prevent those behavior problems. So in that station, students complete a spiral review practice with skills that they already have been taught and introduced to during our guided math groups. It's usually a game or activity that I use at teacher table, so I'm sure that they know how to play the game or complete that activity. And I differentiate Math with Partner based on the ability of each group. I have 4 ability level groups, and I have 4 tubs for each group with games that I know they can do without my support. For accountability, I began using recording sheets included with the activities, but I quickly found out that it just uses way too much paper, so I decided to switch to notebooks. The students' notebooks are organized based on their group, and they're easily accessible at the front of the classroom. I have an example page placed in each tub of what their work should look like in the notebook for that game. So then when it's time to switch stations, I take a minute to walk over. I check their notebooks quickly, and if I notice that they're having trouble with something, I'll make a note on there, and then I'll ask them to put it on top of the notebook bin rather than inside of it. When stations are over, or during my IE time, I will call them over and just briefly go over it and see what they're struggling with and how I can help them. I keep students motivated in math stations by using Class Dojo, and I do use a clip chart. So with Class Dojo, you can award positive points, but I also create groups on Class Dojo based on their math groups, and they like to compete with each other, and then whoever whatever team has the most points, they might get a small treat or reward at the end of the week or the day. It just depends on the behavior and if I need to correct it, how frequently I feel like I need to give a reward. The clip chart, I find that it helps students to visualize their behavior. There has been some controversy with the clip chart, but it does work for me. Students can see where they are, and it motivates them to want to move up. And then at my desk, sometimes I have trouble getting the students to sit on their bottoms, or they're just very talkative and don't want to focus on the activity at hand. So I do find that putting a sticky note on at each student's seat at my table and giving them tallies every time they display good behavior, that seems to motivate them. So in order for students to know where they're going, I do keep a math rotation chart on the smartboard at all times, along with the Class Dojo and a timer. To switch stations, I clap my hands or wait until the alarm goes off, and then students clean up and stand behind their seat. Then I dismiss them to their station one at a time. Yes, this does take up a few extra seconds, but I've tried to have them switch stations after the alarm, and it is just very chaotic. I even tried to have them go to their next station after the alarm goes off, and it's still very chaotic. So sending them to their stations one at a time seems to work for my students.